Achan is a research scientist in Manipur University. He is working on a field where he wants to solve the alcoholism addiction. He is searching all kind of scientific research from all over the world to find out how to solve this addiction problem. Achan uses BioInformatic to search the scientific information from all over the world. He now finds some research finding where ADH gene is responsible for alcohol addiction. When a person takes a lot of alcohol and for a long period of time, then in his body there is an enzyme production, alcohol dehydrogenase. So ADH leads to the production of enzyme alcohol dehydrogenase, and this will dissolve alcohol in liver. Now, since a person is taking alcohol all the time, so his body demands this enzyme more and more, so more and more alcohol is degraded. Now, if a person stops taking alcohol, his body is still producing alcohol dehydrogenase. So this alcohol dehydrogenase will create nuisance in the body, which even leads to psychological problem. So this is how alcohol is causing problem to an individual. So this is what alcohol withdrawal is all about. Achan is trying to solve an individual problem and a social problem of alcoholism through scientific method using bioinformatic tools. Today's lecture is Introduction to Bioinformatic. My name is Sirong Raiping. I'm an assistant professor, Department of Botany, Morton College, Porompat, Imphal East. The syllabus is from Unit 5, 6th semester BSc Botany Honours. Let us see what is the meaning of bioinformatic. What is bioinformatic? Bioinformatic is made of two words. One is bio, means biology, which is dealing with molecular biology, and another word is informatics, information technology, or in French word, which means data processing. Data or datum is a word which has been derived from statistic, which means you have a lot of information of a population or of a sample in different group, qualitatively or quantitatively, having a meaningful inference. So that is theta or datum. Datum is singular, theta is plural. So processing that kind of information, a lot of information of a molecule, a macromolecule, that DNA, RNA, or proteins. So from molecular biology, so solving the problem of molecular biology using informatics is known as bioinformatic. If you go to the definition of bioinformatics, you will find about more than 300 information from different book or different website of internet. But to say in a very simple way, this bioinformatic may be defined as the storage, searching or retrieval of molecular data and doing analysis using information technology. So that is one of the simple way of defining bioinformatic. You are doing research, and your research can be stored in an biological databases, and that databases, if anybody search, they can search, or if you want to search any kind of scientific information, you can search from biological database, you can retrieve it, or you can use that information for analyzing for further research. So that is what bioinformatics is all about. Let us see bioinformatics from a multidisciplinary approach. Bioinformatics is taking the help of so many subjects to deal with molecular biology. So it includes computer science, statistics, information technology, physics, electronics, mathematics, biology, biotechnology, and so on. Let us see the chronology of bioinformatics. In 1953, Watson and Crick discovered the double helix of DNA. Of course, the name Watson and Crick is they got Nobel Prize in this discovery. But behind these two scientists, there were Rosalind Franklin and Wilkins also there working along with them. So Watson is from biological background. Crick is a physics. So physics and biology working together to for this macromolecule DNA. So that was how they are able to find out the double helix of DNA. When I say double helix, means you imagine this ladder. So if it is in twisted form, that is what we call double helix. So they discover using X-ray crystallography, which they use in physics, and now they are using in molecular biology. And in 1955, Frederick Sanger sequenced the first protein. So sequencing, that is, you have 20 amino acids. The 20 amino acids are just like alphabet, and that alphabet can write words using combination of letters. So that is how these proteins are written, by using these 20 amino acids like alanine, histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, and so on. So in that way, if it is in sequence, that is what we call sequencing. So sequencing that leads to, if that macromolecules can be written like the alpha letters forming words, then that was the first how this macromolecules can be written down and recorded and then stored in the biological database. In 1957, Franz Crick and George Knauf propounded the center dogma in molecular biology. So center dogmas means where DNA is transcribed to messenger RNA and then translate to proteins. So and then expression. So that how this in the complex living macromolecules, this complexity works, and that some kind of dogmas, center dogmas, work in the in our living system that was discovered. But that this leads to some kind of milestone in bioinformatics. In 1958, Jack Kilber invented integrated circuit. So we all know that in the field of this electronics or in the field of computer, because of this semiconductor device called this integrated circuit, this computer once upon a time very big, now is can be so small as a personal computer or laptops or palm tops or even mobile work as a computer. So that is because of all this kind of integrated circuit advancement in electronics. And then ARPA, the Advanced Research Project of the United States, which actually for defense purpose they must have made, but this has made the internet, working of internet, possible. In 1966, Marshall Nirenberg cracked the genetic code, a sequence of 3 nucleotide base. So one amino acid is coded by 3 nucleotides. So the chain of nucleotide is coding for different amino acid. So that is one of the milestones in the chronology of bioinformatics. So in 1991, the birth of the term bioinformatics first appeared in scientific literature. So that this is the short chronological, some significant chronological history of bioinformatics. Now, let's see the branches of bioinformatics. Bioinformatics In bioinformatics we have genomics, proteomics, and other branches. When we say genomics, when genes or DNA or our chromosome is written in the forms of A, D, G, C, D, G, D, C, D, D, A. So in that way, that means there are 4 nucleotides in making of DNA. So that 4 nucleotide, just like an alphabet, is writing writing the DNA. Then that we call, if it is written in the form of nucleotide, then that is what we call genomics. And in genomics we have a structural genomics, where we talk about the structure of the genomes, and then another is the functional genome. So one gene is responsible for some characters, so expressing, and that is what we call functional genomes. And phylogenetic, if we study about the descent, evolution through descent. So in evolution, there's so many incidents which is happening and then diverging or converging or whatever. So that phylogenetic, we call it phylogenetic. And that is what we call phylogenetic. So in proteomics also again, we have 20 amino acid. That 20 amino acid, just like a letter, and if amino acid letter is written in the forms of polypeptides, chain of amino acid forming polypeptides and then conforming into protein. So if protein is written in the form of all this amino acid letters length, then we call it proteomics. So in proteomics we have structural proteomics, and of course we talk about the structure of proteins, and that is what we call structural proteomics. And expression, so the certain proteins is expressing something. Many of the proteins, they work as this enzyme, so they do some particular type of reaction, they help in particular type of reaction. So that is an expression of a protein. So if you study from expression, if you search for expression of proteins, and then this is this part of bioinformatics is dealing with protein expression. And now comes the interaction. Now you see protein, we know protein is useful for some kind of function, but when this protein is and protein and another protein inside the living system, that two protein also sometimes interact, so they give a cumulative output when two proteins react. So if you study that type of proteomics, then we call interaction proteomics. Now the third type is the other branches. So other branches like is transcriptomic. So if you talk about the messenger RNA, then you have, of course, there are also 4 nucleotides, and then you study about that in sequence or those things. Then you say it is transcriptomics. Now metaplomics. So in metabolite, when you take food and then during digestion, this complex compound is broken down in simpler compound, and then if you're talking about that metabolites, then that is metabolisms. And then the third one is pharmacoinformatics. So if you talk about some drugs, how in living system the drug is functioning, and then if you talk about how that can be studied using information technology or bioinformatics, we call it pharmacoinformatics. Now let's see the role of bioinformatics to uncover the wealth of biological information hidden in the mass nucleotide sequence. And secondly, knowing the amino acid sequence on the basis of nucleotide sequence, and knowing the structure of proteins on the basis of amino acid sequence, and predict of functional aspect of proteins. So certain proteins has some expression, so if you can predict what the protein will do when it goes to living substance, so it has certain structure, so it has some receptor site, and this receptor site is having some site for this kind of enzymatic activities. And then if you see that structure, or if you see that sequence, and then you can predict about the functional aspect of the proteins, then you call that is also the role of bioinformatics. Besides that, to provide biological data, information, and other related literature on the internet, to obtain a clear insight into the fundamental biology of organism and using the informatics for welfare of mankind. So that is what the role of bioinformatics is. In biotechnology, this bioinformatics is the brain of biotechnology, the practical aspect of bioinformatics. You know, all the knowledge or information is there in bioinformatics. Now that information, if you retrieve from this databases and if you used for the welfare of the human being, then that is what we call biotechnology. So certain genes, certain proteins which is there in stored, the information which is stored in biological database, that is in bioinformatics, that if you use for the welfare of human beings, so that is what we are talking about. So of course DNA is the fundamental biology. So DNA is the genetic information which is written down in our body. So from that information we can do a lot of things. So that if that for the welfare of human being, that is biotechnology. Role of bioinformatics. Now, if for the role of bioinformatics, there are so many roles, but I'll mainly talk about 3-4 things. That is drug discovery, phylogenetic analysis, agriculture, forensic science. And bioinformatics in India, we have nationwide bioinformatics, Strand Bioinformatic. Some success and struggle in the milestone of bioinformatics. Crop improvement through utilization of genetic information, improvement in forensic tools, in that understanding of human disease leading to improved drug designing, genetic information of many microbes, plants and animals at biological databases. Scientific can deposit or retrieve the structure and function of interaction of macromolecules. They can simulate using the above macromolecule data to predict the outcome. Scientists can now transmit and obtain scientific information through internet, and they are now like working in one big global laboratory. This is because of all because of bioinformatics. But Bibliography, a textbook of bioinformatics, Sharma, Munja and Shankar, Bioinformatic Methods and Applications, and S.C. Rastogi and Miti Radha and Rastogi, Introduction to Bioinformatics, Anna Tramontanon. Thank you.